So we'll see how this goes. All right, guys, how you doing today? Honey Badger here. Just picked up a nice project we're going to work on. This is a great starter project for anybody out there. I picked it up for 50 bucks. It's an easy project. I don't know if it runs or not. We're going to walk through all the little its and bits with this project, figure out how we're going to go about getting this thing started. Does it have spark? Does it have fuel? I mean, does it have oil? All the basic stuff. This is a simple project. I've only got 50 bucks invested right now. We'll see how much I have total. I'm aiming for under $200, but we'll see. But really what this is a great educational project for somebody out there to learn to work on something mechanical. I told you we're going to start basics, and this is a basic project. Here we go. I'm going to show you what I got. Here we go. We got the mighty Snowblower. It is older than I am, actually. It is a 1968. It was manufactured for the Montgomery Wars. Check that out. Old. This thing's old. It's got a Briggs & Stratton 7 horsepower engine on it, so we got a nice gas engine. It's got multiple gear selectors here. It's pretty rusty looking. The guy I bought it from says it works. He said he had it running. So we'll see how. I just drug it home. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to start step by step. First thing I'm going to do is get off all the grease, and then we're going to start cleaning it up. You know, do some sanding, wire brushing, kind of clean things up, make it look pretty. See if it has spark to the spark plug, see if that's working. We're going to check the oil, and then we'll just see how the carburetor is. It's an old-fashioned carburetor here. And then I'm going to walk you through step by step how I plan to fix this thing and my thought process on it, including getting the documentation to see how this thing works. I don't know. I've never worked on one of these things before. I can tell you right now, that's not probably stock, but hey, this thing is a 1968 Snowblower. So it's lived a pretty long life, longer than most of us have been alive. I know longer than I've been alive. So we'll see how it goes. But hey, this is the next project. It's a simple, basic project. We're going to go through it step by step, kind of renovate it a little bit, restore it. All right, first things first, we're going to nail this thing with some Mean Green super detergent, spray it down, and we're going to let that sit in the sun for a bit and let it soak. And then hopefully we'll hit it with the power washer and then take a lot of that stuff off. But just get all the grease off it. That way when I'm working on it, I don't get my paws all greasy, and it makes life easier. So when I start taking things apart, it's not all greasy as well. It's not always going to be perfectly clean when you get done doing this, but it's a really good start. All right, here we go. All right, we're just gonna spray all this down, get this thing soaked down. It's actually a nice warm day here in Iowa. It's supposed to get really nasty, so I'm taking advantage of the fact that it's warm out. And I'm gonna spray all this stuff down, wash it down, let it warm up, let it dry out here in the sun. And then I'll just take the project inside and we'll work on it inside when it starts snowing. Hopefully we'll get her built back and repaired before major snowstorms. All right, we'll let that soak in the sun a little bit, let that stuff sit in, and then I'll break out the power washer and clean it up. Alrighty, quick spray off, got off a lot of the grease. Whatever's left on, we'll take off and we clean it up. We're gonna start taking it apart, figure out what's going on. All right, what we'll do is we'll tip it back over, let it dry out, drain out, let it sit in the sun and dry out, and then we'll get started going on this project. If you like what you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell thingy, and we're gonna get going here. Alrighty guys, we got this snowblower out here. We're gonna start working on it. I'm gonna go walk through step by step of what I'm looking at. First of all, it's super rusty, but we're gonna work through that. Aesthetics is probably the last thing I'm gonna worry about, but I'm gonna look at it as well. It's gonna be a kind of a restoration slash get it going projects. First thing we wanna look at is this gas engine. So this is a Briggs & Stratton engine. And what we want to do is for gas engine, the first things you want to look at is spark, fuel, and air. Make sure they have those three. If you don't have any of those three, the engine's not going to run. So we're going to look at all three of those first. The tank is empty, so that's a good start, but we don't have fuel. And then we're going to look at the spark plug, see what that is, and then we'll also look to see, make sure the carburetor is working as well. I do or do not know if this thing runs. I'm just gonna start poking around and see what I find. This would be the same thing I would do with any project when I first get it, to see what's going on. Look at it, see how it works, see what's missing, what's not missing. Do I need to order parts? If I do need to order parts, where am I gonna find those parts? So first things first is we're just gonna look around and see what we got. See here, gas line is right in here, carburetor, fuel tank. Is the fuel tank gonna shut off or not? All right, we just took off the cover here. I wanted to see if the choke was working. The only way you can get at it is take that cover off. Look to see if there's an air filter as well. And I don't see that there is an air filter. It looks like straight air going into this. So that's a label how it goes here. That tells me there's a screw missing. So I didn't take one out down there. So there's a screw missing here. And I have to check to see if there's supposed to be an air filter in there. I would think there's supposed to be. Older piece of equipment, who knows what happened, but we'll have to dig into that, see if an air filter belongs in there. So we'll take that off, kind of clean that up a little bit. We'll put that on last. Now here's the most important part right there, is a model number and serial number to this motor. Cool thing about this snowblower is the fact that even though it's a 1968 snowblower, it still has electric starter on it, which is kind of cool. I just wanted to see if it still worked or if it needed to be greased up. And I'm also poking around to see what I see in here. I found a little valve here at the tank, and that was actually all the way closed, so that'd be the shut-off valve for the tank. If I just added gas to the tank and expected it to work, it wouldn't have worked because the valve was closed. Here's the cord and the on-off switch for the electric starter. So you plug your electric cord in here, hit the on-off switch, and there you go. They'll start to crank over. We'll try that out later to make sure it works, but I just want to poke around and see where I'm at, and also did a little research. All right, just took this cover off. That's actually parked right here. And what I was trying to do is figure out what this says, and I assumed it was. So this is the belts that run, the blade that runs the snowblower, is also as well as the belts that run the drive of the wheels here. And you can see if I move this here, it drops this pressure against this belt. And if I make that off, and I adjust this clutch lever here, it pushes this against here. So the question is there enough spring against these? There's enough belt here? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. To me, these belts look pretty weak. They're pretty worn out. They're kind of torn up. I did a little research online. I'll go over that with you, why I was doing it and how I was doing it. But there's belts available for it. Cross references to newer belts. So I know I can replace those belts. So that's the first thing I gotta add to my list. That's one thing I'll add to my list. The big thing is you don't know how the condition of this snowblower is or whatever you're working on is. Just start digging through it, use that owner's manual, and start opening it up and start looking at things. Just look at things. Your eyes will tell you if things are broken or not broken. I'm just looking at those belts. Those belts are pretty worn. They're torn up. They don't look very good. So I know I need to get new belts. And then while I'm in there, are there bearings that need to be looked at? Are there other things that need to be looked at? So we'll kind of go from there. This is all before I start the engine, because if we start the engine and all this stuff is not working, it could cause problems with the engine, or it could cause problems with things moving around mechanically without inspecting it first. So we don't want to do that without starting adding power, without digging into things and look at it. How do I know how to do this? Just get curious and start digging across. This is why you're going to have this first project. You've never done one before, you start digging into it. Worst case scenario, you forget to put it back together, you don't know how to put it back together, you've learned something. But if you're following along with me, I'll walk you through it and we'll put it back together and it'll run perfect.
He wanted the United States to intervene immediately on their behalf. He was not alone.
They would meet secretly with Cuba and have America come to them.
February 8 blew up in Havana Harbor. Roosevelt blamed.
Where'd that nut go?
Called.
Alrighty. I don't know if you guys can see this here, but up here is this nice round bushing. In replacement of that, somebody thought it would be a genius idea to use nuts. Nuts don't roll as well as a nice round bushing does. So somebody along the ways decided to replace this nice bushing with these two nuts. Square things don't roll as well as round things. So I'm gonna have to go find a round bushing to make this work. If not, I'll have to make one. We'll show you how to do that if I have to make one. Not a real big deal. It's maybe gonna be better than this nut, but I think we'll be able to find some replacement parts. Alrighty, let's see if we can get this wheel off here. It's supposed to be a clip in here, and it comes out. Once that clip comes out, you can pull the pin out, which will allow the wheel to come off. There you go. Just like that. Now we get the wheel off, put this pin back in, like so we don't lose it. That's the key here with a lot of this stuff is don't lose stuff. Alrighty, always wear your mask. Always wear your mask while you're grinding and kicking up paint and stuff like that. This is old school paint, so it's probably got some lead in it from back from 1968. I would guess it's got a lot of lead in it. Not to mention there's rust particles, all this stuff. You're gonna breathe that in, not good for you. Your life expectancy would be 0 if you kept doing that. What we found here on the Snowblower is that pretty much and honestly it's in really good shape. There's a few things that are missing, a few parts that are here and there that are missing. The dry belts are worn out, so we're gonna have to replace those. That's not a huge surprise. I was kind of expecting to do that. I was poking around. I didn't see a lot of things mechanically wrong with it, so I was just looking. I got bored, honestly, and I just broke out the grinder. That's more fun than trying to do things mechanical sometimes. So I broke out the grinder. If you don't have a grinder, you can get an orbital sander, do that, or you can do it the old-fashioned way by hand if you're trying to do it by sanding, trying to refurbish it. If you don't want to refurbish it at all, it doesn't need to be pretty to work. I'm going to try to do both here to show you how I can do it. It's not really going to be a big project. That's why I picked this thing for you, so I can show you guys everything that needs to be done to it. So we're going to call it good for the night. We'll get back at it tomorrow or the next time I get back at it from a trip. But we're going to finish up this Snowblower and get it looking nice and pretty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the pure definition of irony and Murphy kicking in. I've been out here scooping snow for about a half hour, and you can see it's starting to fill in pretty good. The irony of this is of my snowblower that I did last night. I tore it apart last night. Who's gonna clean up this mess? Ay, ay, ay. I just scooped that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is why you rebuild snowblowers in the summer. All right, change of plans. It's snowing outside. There's supposed to be 8 to 9 inches, maybe even 12 inches of snow tomorrow morning. So we're gonna put this in full send mode. I'm gonna check the gas. All right, I'm gonna put some seafoam in the tank. If it doesn't need it, we're great. If it does need it, you'll clean out the tank and the fuel system and the carburetor and all that stuff while I'm running it and give it a try. I want to check some oil in here. We've already checked the belts. I'm going to throw some grease in all the areas that need to have grease on them. We're going to put this thing back together and try it out. If it doesn't start, then we'll have to do something different. But if it starts, we're going to go full send. I'm going to get this thing going. I'm not scooping snow. There's 12 inches of snow out there. I ain't doing it. Alrighty, back to send mode. All right, what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna try to put some grease in all the fittings, and those are called Zerk fittings. Those allow you to put grease, a grease gun on there, and put grease in this fitting, and that allows things around these tubes here, or these moving shafts that have grease on them. So we'll put some grease on that. I'll put the wheels back on, put some gas back in the tank here. I will figure out how this carburetor is supposed to work, and I'm also gonna put this chute back on. So we're gonna get going with that. That's my plan for it. Once all that's done, oh, I also forgot, we're gonna put some grease on the starter here to make sure that works really well. If all that goes well, we'll try to get it started. All right, if it gets running, shows you how quick I can get something running quickly. If it doesn't run, then we'll work on that. All right, I noticed that when I was cleaning this thing and looking at it the other day, is that there's a bolt here that goes through this shaft. These turn, and there's a center shaft that drives it, and it looks like that bolt broke off in here, so I'm gonna try to knock it out. If it doesn't come out, I'm just gonna go without it. Full send, we'll only have half the blades working. Half a snowblower is better than no snowblower right now, and my back ain't gonna scoop snow if I don't have to. That came out perfect. I did pick up a screw or a bolt to run through there, so we'll put a bolt through there, and we'll go on. Alright, gonna lock that, bolt on that. We're good with that for now. First things first, safety tip. I have some gloves on. Now, there's two rules of thought out there. I'm a man, I don't need gloves. I can just wash it off. The story is that I got sick really bad one day by not having gloves on, touching a lot of chemicals. I learned my lesson. I got scorned by the doctor. So ever since, I grabbed gloves. There's $15 in gloves here. These will last a long time. It's much cheaper and less hassle than having to go to the doctor. And for the guys and gals out there, when you're touching your other person in your life that you love, your fingers aren't all greasy. Tip from the Badger, keep your hands clean with gloves. All right, this is the first Zerk fitting. This is one Zerk fitting right here. There's one here, there's one on the other side, and what this will do is this will grease this drive axle that runs the wheels and allow it to have some lubrication. You're asking yourself, how do I know if there's enough grease in here? Well, when you put your grease fitting on here and you watch down right in here, you'll see a little bit of grease start to come out. Once that does, there's enough in there. Right there. Done. And if you look right there, it's come out the end. That means I got enough in there.
Industrial production had never been higher, or the profits greater. Who had been a friend of the president's father, spoke for most of the men who
All right, when I took the snow chute off, I found a bushing and a nut. Well, obviously the nut is not the right thing. So what we're gonna do is, I didn't find the right bushing to order, and I hadn't got around to it, and it's snowing outside. So what I did is I went to the hardware store and found equivalent bushing about the right size, and what we're gonna do is adapt it. Now, is this correct? No, it's not. What we're gonna do is try to find the right part. If it doesn't work, we'll find a bushing that's closer, but this is gonna work probably just for this evening or for the next week or so until I get the right bushing. What I did is I found something like this. Now, the diameter is about the same. It fits on the pin. It's a little bit not as round as far as diameter on the outside. We'll use these in replacement of the nut. Is this a perfect replacement? No, it's not. Is it a better replacement than a nut that's got square sides? Yes. This cost me 16 cents. We're gonna work on trying to find the right part when we can get it online ordered and go to the interwebs and find it. Again, this is a 1968 snowblower, so it might take me a little bit, but in the meantime, I'm gonna use a modified bushing like this. All right, always wear your safety glasses. All right, so you're asking me, how do I know the right width and length? Well, we're gonna measure it with this caliper here. It doesn't really matter what the numbers are. These are millimeters and these are inches. So what we're gonna use is the millimeters. It's much easier to use because I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this particular case, it's gonna be 6 millimeters long. We're gonna take the one I just modified and see how I did. Just eyeball. Looks like I'm 7 millimeters long. So I'm gonna take off a little bit. You're sitting on the couch as a new guy, you're going, I don't have one of those grinders at home, I can't do this. Well, you can have an old-fashioned file and put it in a vise. Where you say, well, I don't have a vise. Well, you could put it in some vice grips and use a file that way. Is it as easy? No, it's not. But we all started there. We don't all have the money to have a grinder or all this fancy stuff. So if you don't have a grinder, grab some vice grips and a file and start filing it down. Is it as easy as using a grinder? No, it's not. But as the old saying goes, I've served my time using a vice grip and a file, and I was able to afford a grinder. Well, technically, I didn't afford the grinder because that was another gift from Dad. There you go. Thanks, Dad. Hear that guy out there with the snowblower that's running? He's just jealous. He's not in here fixing this one. Anybody got a snowblower ready for winter, it says experts to get it ready as it's snowing. So those of you who are looking for projects this winter, how's that lawnmower working? Or that weed eater? All right, what I'm doing is here is scraping off the old grease. I'm gonna put some grease back on here to help this thing move around. We're gonna scrape off the grease in here and kind of lube it up so we don't have two metal surfaces grinding on each other. Kind of like I talked about in episode 2 of the winter prep. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. All right, let's see what's going on with this carburetor system here. I have no idea what this is. Never seen one of these before, and honestly, the manuals on this stuff is pretty weak. I'm still trying to track some down. There's a guy on the interweb who has a website just dedicated to these brand of snowblower, which he specializes in stuff. I'm waiting on him to get back to me on the documentation for this. So I'm a little bit in the dark with some of this stuff. I do have manuals for the engine, but I don't have manuals just for this area here. So I'm digging around looking for stuff. So what I'm guessing here is it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. This is high-end, go fast, high rabbit mode. And this is back to turtle mode over here. We've got the choke for when we're trying to get it started. The rest of these adjustments, I'm not 100% sure. I think this is for the higher speed, high end, and this is the lower end here. Again, I'm just guessing based on some of the diagrams I've seen. So we're gonna try to see what we can do about this. I checked the oil earlier. I pulled the dipstick out and the little stick is gone. So I got my flashlight out. There's oil down in there. It's pretty far down up to here, so it might be overfilled. I'll have to get a real dipstick for it later. I think what we want to do is put this thing back down on the ground, flip her over and check out her undercarriage and see if there's things I need to grease in there and see if there's anything that stands out. We didn't have a chance to look at it, so we're going to try that next. All right, your handy dandy motorcycle lift / snowblower lift / I don't know what else, but we'll figure it out. Oh, gentle. Easy, Betsy. Easy. Whew. There we go. There's her guts. So, here's our drive belt that we saw from the top. Here's some drive chains. Here's a lever here. And this is high-low. So, you'll turn and go high or low. So that's low speed, or we can go high speed, depending on where it hits in this lever here. Oh, let's see here. What does the rest of this stuff do? Well, this is the reverse. Actually, that's forward and all the way back. You can hear a click there. That's the reverse. I was looking for any Zerk fittings here. I wanted to check to see how these chains were. They need to look like they put a little lubrication on them. We're gonna break out the old white lightning, AKA the white lithium grease, and throw some in there. I spy maybe something down in there. There might be something down in here. Not a whole lot. It's pretty straight, simple forward, which is the reason it's a pretty straight, simple project here. This is another reason why I grabbed it, to use as an example for somebody who's just learned to work on things. If you don't know what they are, you can take your time and poke around. This is the gear, it's a chain, there's another chain. You kind of move things around. There's another drive gear here. So this gear moves all the wheels. And then this, we just discovered that this goes from high to low. So if we want to go high speed or low speed, they'll change the gearing. Now, the way this is based on how many teeth on these gears. So there's a bigger gear here, smaller gear here versus a bigger gear here. The bigger it is, the slower it's going to move. The smaller it is, the faster it's gonna move. So that's what we're looking at. I don't see anything that stands out to me as like dangerous Will Robinson. So we're gonna put some grease on it, put some gas in her, and see if we can get some fire going. All right, we're gonna plug an electrical cord here and see if this sucker works. See if we have a starter. No need to throw out a shoulder when we can just hit the electric starter. Oh, look at that. Thanks to wonderful science members over there at PB Blaster. I'm not even sure what the right company name is, but it's PB, we've all called it Blaster. I'll look up the official name, but since 1957, so this is a 1968 snowblower, so this has got to work better than the snowblower. I sprayed a bunch of this stuff on all the parts on here that I was actually going to take apart, but they also loosened everything up, so it allows me to move this chute. This was all broken and stiff. Move this chute appropriately. So we can go out there and compete with Fred. All right, to make a combustion engine work, you need air, gas, and spark. So I can put some gas in here. I figured out that I need to turn the gas and happener on right here. We have a starter to get this thing to turn over. I need to check the spark, so I'll pull out the spark plug, crank it over, see if there's a spark. If there's no spark, it's really not worth putting gas in it yet. If there's spark, we have oil, we know we have air in the carburetor, so we'll give it a shot. Next is checking the spark. All right, the hard part is always find the right spark plug socket. All right, for you new members out there, this is a shorty. Those who don't know what this stuff is, this is a shorty ratchet. Let's see here, auto light spark plug. Well, I'm not an expert on auto lights or spark plugs, but I thought auto lights went to Fords, not Briggs & Strattons. Well, it looks clean and looks like there's a gap there. Now you ask yourself, how do you know what gap is? I don't. We're gonna have to figure this out. But right now I know it's 30 thousandths, so we'll see how that works. All right, now we'll see if we can get some spark off of this. So what this is a coil lead. Fire electrical comes through this line and connects to this spark plug and should shoot fire out the end of this spark plug. But you have to have a good connection. And what we're gonna do is try to pull this the metal piece in here, the cord, and then all this is a rubber insulator to prevent this from hitting other things. So we're gonna try to pull this through to get a good connection. All right, what I didn't want to do happen, but that's okay, we'll fix it, is that this boot, this insulated boot, was over the top of this, but I had to get this out of there so I could make a nice strong connection with this spark plug. See, it wasn't connecting really well earlier. So now that it's doing that, tighten it up a little bit, and we'll connect it here. Now, if you touch that, you're gonna not like it. So don't do that. That's why this rubber insulator's on here. So what we'll do is, oops, see, it fell right off. There we go, nice connection. Now you want that so you get a good spark and electrical fire across this. Now I'm gonna go run this across the wire wheel, make sure this is a nice connection. I've scrubbed this to good enough, I'll grab a file and clean that in there as well. Alrighty, I'm gonna add a little dielectric grease here. What this is help grease provide a good connection. And then we're gonna put this on here. All right, what we're gonna do here, and I got the lights turned out, so we want to ground this, so this spark plug is grounded against this, and we also see spark. So typically you just lay it here and see how this works. If we get a spark, a nice big blue spark across there, we're good to go. All right, we're gonna hit the starter and see if we got a nice big blue light. All right, you saw the spark? We know we have air. All we have to do is add go-go juice, and if that works, this sucker's gonna start. So what we'll do is try it out. I'm gonna add some gas. I'm not gonna add a lot because I don't wanna have to take it out if it doesn't start. But if it does, we're good to go. We're gonna send it, because I got snow in my yard and I don't want it there anymore. All right, put some gas in here. It's got this new safety thing. I'm not sure if I like it or not. Push down, let the gas out. All right, we'll just put a little bit more in there and we're good. All right, I gotta go find that cap. What'd you guys do with that cap? All right, here's the fuel cap. Out. We're in neutral. All right, let's see how this works. We've got the choke here. We're gonna choke that a little bit. Add a little bit of this. Now, it won't start right away, I don't think, because It didn't have any gas in it, so it could be dry. I'm gonna get some gas into this carburetor. So let's see how this goes. Wants to. Now, if you guys were listening, it was starting to pop. And what that is a good indication of is it's running lean. You can't quite see it, but this part of the muffler was getting a little brighter than the rest of it. Alrighty, we just wrapped up that snowblower. I am super happy how it ran. I walked through it fairly quickly, put it together fairly quickly. I hope I went slow enough for you guys to show you what I was doing, what my thought process was, and how I went through it logically to think about how I'm protecting the engine, how I'm protecting different things on the snowblower itself. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. I'll get to them, I'll respond. I appreciate those comments. If you like what you're seeing, leave a like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell thingy. You'll know when I'm sending out some next videos. We're gonna get to that snowblower. We'll work on it in the spring. That'll give me time to find some decals to replace the ones that are on there. So when we get it all painted, we put some nice decals on there. And also the little parts that we did talk about that need to be replaced, I'll find those as well. That way when we tear it down and we put it back together, it's all done correctly. We'll do a video on that when I go ahead and clean it up. Again, thank you for joining me this adventure. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're doing the same. Again, thanks for being here. We'll talk to you next time.